Hey there everyone, Luke here, and hope you guys had a very good Easter. I know I did. Still got quite a few eggs to get through myself, so gonna be spacing that out throughout the rest of the week, because yeah, got about 3 more eggs to get through, and loads more upstairs if I'm able to get my grubby little mitts on. But yeah. Hope you guys had a very good Easter. I hope you guys had lots of chocolates yourself. Or those who weren't really interested in Easter, I hope you guys had a quite pleasant weekend. And yeah, we'll just dive right into the Mission Yozakura chapter. Alright, so this will be chapter 126, titled My Precious Family, or to quote Gollum from Lord of the Rings, my precious! Oh, Tayo, you're my precious brother! You're my precious brother, Tayo! Let's sing the precious! Okay, that was a little bit creepy, but considering that is something that I think Koichiro would actually do, it's appropriate for his character. But anyway, getting into the chapter proper, it's pretty much continuing on from the last chapter, where we're continuing the fight between Koichiro and Tayo, as Koichiro has just grabbed hold of Koichiro, and it's just like, even though he was able to grab hold of Koichiro, it's still taking quite a toll on Tayo as a person, because you see him like, oh, I'm gonna get you, Koichiro, just grabbing his hand, and it's like, okay, I finally got you, Koichiro. But then even after all of that, there's just like this intense force that just like flushes Tayo right back, like literally knocks him off his feet. So it's kind of like he's being like pushed, like, okay, so the panel is like, oh no, so it's more like he's being pulled back rather than pushed. So it's like it's being like being pulled back by the intense amount of strings that not intense amounts of wires that Koichiro actually has. And he's just like, okay, get a bit of thought, get a bit of notion, get myself balancing as well. So it's kind of like that attack from Koichiro was just like, okay, I need to keep myself balanced. Like, okay, I've got that now, and Koichiro is just like, really just like, how foolish, Tayo. Like, I'm giving you this opportunity to just get away from me because I'm basically got poison in me. I'm trying to protect you here, Tayo, and you're still coming after me. So how foolish can you actually be? Before we see like just some sort of force seems to bring some sort of like attack Koichiro, because you see him being like, oh, how foolish, and then you just see like shrieking, and Koichiro's like, what the hell is going on here? And it's like looking and it's like his knee is looking down, and Tayo is like, just like, Koichiro, okay, I'm gonna get to you, and we see the poison actually affecting. It's not affecting Tayo, but more. If we look at it from a certain perspective, it's more affecting his weapon, his Yuri, his stun gun that turns into a sword. So it's more affecting me on that end, because you can see that it's more like it's like on its hilt. And this is actually something that even Koichiro, like, we all know Koichiro, so we all know that not much actually is shocking to him as a person. He's more of the calm, collective. He knows everything. He's like the head of the Yozakura. Well, Musume's the head of the Yozakuras, but you know what I mean, in terms of like the one who's just like the most experienced, the one who's the strongest out of them and knows all the techniques now. To see something like this that even he is confused by, like, he's like, what the hell is this? So like, this is a different side to Koichiro that we actually are unaware of, which is nice that we're actually getting these different levels of emotions, and also seeing Koichiro in a different light. It makes his character much more three-dimensional, because he's not just like, oh, this guy who's like abidable, like knows everything. No, there are actually things out there that even he has no idea about, and therefore has zero experience of like actually combating it. Because you see this bright flash of light coming from Tayo, and he's like, "Oh, my Sakura cherry blossoms are covering the backgrounds," and basically just proofing them out of existence. So yeah, the fact that Koichiro has no idea what this ability is a little bit confusing, because it was Kai who actually gave. Yeah, I've put my phone down for a minute. It's Kai who actually gave Tayo this information about what this ability can actually do, and how it can be the one to save Koichiro, as he'll explain in the flashback later. Which again is something that me and Pyron's brought up, because it's like, yeah, this is leading into something big and something involving Kai. Like, we debated when we talked about Mission Yozakura, and whether or not this is actually going to lead into Kai actually being the main antagonist, because we have Tsubumi, who's the main antagonist at the moment, but it might be a case of like, okay, Tsubumi is the Aizen of Mission Yozakura Family, then Kai will be the Bok of Mission Yozakura. So it's like, Tsubumi for the first half, Kai for the second half, being like the main antagonist, the main antagonistic forces. And we were debating like if this is actually going to lead to a point where it's sort of the opposite of what happened with Tampopo, how the Yozakura family were actually getting people and allies to come in to protect them from Tampopo. It might actually be the opposite. Like, if Kai is in allegiance with someone, or he's got his own agenda going on, and he's actually working to actually undermine and destroy the Yozakura family, it might lead to them losing not only their spy rankings, but also having their allies in the Spy Association actually turn on them, which would actually make a very interesting second arc, where it's like the Yozakuras versus the Japan Spy Association, and maybe actually going to other countries, because we know there are spies in other countries, like that fan submitting chapter. Like, we know there were fan submitting chapters, but there had to have been like, the author might have been like, okay, so this big-breasted USA spy. Yeah, there's going to be spies in the US, and maybe they'll actually go to the US at some point. Although that's kind of a bit of a disappointment. Like, we go to America for the spies, but we never go to England, where we literally have the world's most famous spy character, James Bond. So seriously, Mission Yozakura, come to England and meet a Spanish James Bond-like character. So yeah, we have the Sakura cherry blossoms that Tayu has. Yeah, I don't know what this ability. Well, we know what the ability is, but we don't know like sort of like the whole extent of it. Like what it can actually, like. Is it basically just like an antidote? Like, it seems like it's an antidote because it's getting rid of the poison, but at the same time, is it something much more on a grand scale? We just don't know about it. And again, Koichiro is just baffled by this. Like, what the hell is going on here? And he's like, oh, from the place it touched. And again, it's just dissipating the flowers that I am as he goes. The black flowers where he touched me are gone. As we get the flashback again of Kai. Like, Kai is just like this. Yeah, if Kai does turn out to be a major antagonist, that would be something again really incredible. And I mean, from what we know of Kai so far, I do like his character. I like his backstory of Koichiro. I like the direction they're actually taking about him, and if he turned out to be the main villain of the entire series, it would make sense, given like he's the head of the Spy Association, and maybe that's why Koichiro didn't want to be the head in the first place. Not only because he was like, yeah, I'm not really interested in all of that, so I'm going to thrust it onto you, Kai. Maybe he actually saw some corruption in the Spy Association, so he's staying in it to kind of keep an eye on it, but at the same time, he doesn't want to be in that head position, because it might be, even though they're the head of the Spy Association, it's kind of like, I'm just trying to think of it. Okay, it's kind of like any workplace. Like, you'll have your manager, right? You'll be a subordinate to your manager, but your manager will also have someone that they answer to, and even then that person will have someone they answer to. Like we use my workplace as an example. It's like, okay, I'm a sales assistant in work. I have my manager who's like my main boss, but then my manager has like a branch manager who like they answer to, and then the branch manager has someone higher up who they answer to, and then you have the person right at the top. It might work the same. It might work the same here. Like this spy association, like Kai might be the head of it, but they might have like but there might be a branch of a larger organization, and that person and that might have someone who Kai answers to, and then they might have someone who answers to high up. Like there might be an overarching like spy government or something like that. We don't know, because it seems like there are spies throughout Japan, and there's got to be somewhat. There can't just be like, oh yeah, it's one person on top. There has to be multiple people who are keeping everything in check here, and yeah, this is something that I feel like might get addressed. But also as well, something else I said is like we don't. It's like we don't know exactly like Rin, who is the mother of the Yozakura siblings, and it's established that the heads have multiple siblings, but we've only seen the siblings of Mutsumi. We haven't seen like Mutsumi's aunts and uncles. So does Ray have brothers and sisters out there, and is Kai one of them? Like Kai could actually, it wouldn't surprise me if it turned out that Kai was actually a cousin of the Yozakura family siblings, that they just didn't know about it, and it would make sense like why he's being almost this, and why he knows about all these different techniques, and what he knows about this cherry blossom ability that even Koichiro doesn't even know about. So after the flashback with Kai, we have Tayo going, "No way. Is this for real?" Before we have Koichiro warning Tayo to stay away from him. Now, in our live stream that me and Party Jams did, I thought that this might potentially be Tsubumi's subconsciously speaking through Koichiro, because I've got that idea of like the poison, since it's connected to Tsubumi, it gives the ability for her to actually control the people that actually are infected with this poison, and therefore also be able to speak to whoever they're talking to subconsciously, as the phrase is like, "I know what you're thinking, but I won't let you lay a finger on me," because it seems kind of like a bit like head scratching. I mean, Koichiro will explain why he's doing all of this in a minute, but it seems like a bit of head scratching. Like, if Koichiro had an idea of if he could get out of this situation, I think he would have actually been encouraging Tayo, like, "Look, Tayo, I know this might affect. I know this might affect you, but if it's the slimest opportunity to actually get this out of my system, come and take it off me." But I guess he does explain in a minute why he's kind of like pushing them away rather than bringing them into the forefront. But again, it just seems like a little bit out of character for Koichiro to be acting like this, like being very confident. Well, he is very confident, but being like, "Yeah, Tayo, you're not going to lay a finger on me." Although that might not be exactly out of character, but it just seemed like, "Koichiro, you're in a life and death situation here. Please, take the help when you can get it." But I digress. They both continue to stare down each other as they continue to strike each other in a very gorgeous panel. Like, I know we didn't actually comment on it, but this panel is pretty damn dope, if I do say so myself. So yeah, we have them going full throat into attacking each other, as Koichiro says, "Oh, the problem isn't just the poison. He knew all along that they were targeting him specifically, like the heads of the Yozakura family were targeting him specifically because, for obvious reasons, he's the strongest out of all of them. Like, say what you were about Koichiro, but he does have the skills to pay the bills," which is why when people say like, "Oh, how can you tolerate Koichiro and not Gouge from Black Clover?" And the reason why I can't stomach Gouge is because, unlike Koichiro, Gouge really, no disrespect to Gouge fans out there, but he really doesn't have the skills to pay the bills. Unlike Koichiro. I was going to compare Koichiro to like any rank in Black Clover, he would definitely be on a captain level. Like, there's no doubt about it. Koichiro is definitely captain level. And also as well, with the reason why I stomach Koricho more than Gouge is because, unlike Gouge, Koricho actually does get his comeuppance every time he's acting that creepy around Mutsumi, and he does eventually sort of grow out of that. Like, he's not as obvious anymore, whereas Gouge is just as obvious as he can get, and eventually he does start to tolerate Koricho start to tolerate Tayo. I think I've explained this before why I prefer Koricho over Gouge, but they're still both really creepy characters. But at the same time, like I said, Koricho, he definitely has the skills to pay the bills. He's the strongest out of all of them. There's no doubt about that. Both figuratively, both physically. Well, I would say that Shinzo might be physically stronger than Koricho. How I would argue Futaba is physically stronger than Koricho, especially in the first chapter where she pulled him up by his tail and just slammed him down. But mentally, he is the strongest out of all of them. There's no doubt about that. Okay, he says he's the family's greatest fighting force. So yeah, that pretty much sums him up. And he knew deliberately that basically they were leading him into a trap here. So he was like, yeah, I know, I knew this was a trap, and I knew if I went to them that I would be trapped. But I also knew I could beat them. Yeah, don't count your chickens before they hatch, Koricho, because you may think you beat them now, but like I said, Tsubumi is pretty much a tree right now, so as long as she's around, the Yozakura heads will be coming back as zombies, because they'll be sprouting new bodies, in the same way that flowers can resprout on a tree and blossom out probably bigger and stronger than they were before. But here's where his one misjudgment came in, is that he realised eventually that it wasn't just him that was the target, and it wasn't just Mutsumi or any of his other siblings here. It was everything about the present Yozakura family and the previous heads. And he specifically mentions that there is something out there directly it's hostile towards everything Yozakura. So this is where me and Party Jams' idea about Kai comes in, is that he's the one that's the hostile one towards the Yozakura family, and it's deliberately him that's being the structure that actually wants to take down the Yozakura family structure itself, whether for reasons we don't know about it, but it would make for an interesting twist if the fact that the people out there that are trying to take them down are actually the people that have been in their presence the whole time, the Spy Association. And it begs the question of, are the Yozakura families, if that's the case, going to lose their spy licenses, and is it going to be like, right, you guys, the Yozakura family, they're a disruption to everything, we need to take them out? Is it going to be like the Yozakuras versus the spies of Japan? Is it going to get Ren back involved? Is it going to get the other spies that we've not seen anything about? And what's it going to be for Akari, because she's technically part of the family as the family maid, but is it going to be a case of like, oh, I don't want to be a part of this family anymore if they're a threat to Japan or something? That's going to lead into some sort of defense, because we had that whole chapter between Shinzo and Akari when they went out together, and it's kind of like the outspoken socially aware person versus like the shy reclusive one, and it was an interesting pairing, and it'll be great to see if that's actually going to be effective, if this is the case, if Kai's going to like rally all the spies together against the Yozakura family, because the fact they mentioned that it's something out there means that there is something other than Tsubumi that's directly threatening the Yozakura family, and it just opens up the potential for more threats to come in, and wherever they come from, that just remains to be seen. But I really like the chapter fact that it just opens up a whole new can of worms to what could potentially be out there that's causing a threat to the Yozakura family that Koricho is ultimately aware of, but has no idea what it actually is. Koricho goes on to mention that if he discloses this information of the hat, that there is something out there to Tail, it'll probably be even harder. They'll probably all try even harder to help him, even though he's kind of like, yeah, even though he's been in the past, yeah, family's got to stick together, like, and he's going to get help from his family eventually. And he goes, "Oh, perhaps this power of yours, Tile, might be able to heal me, but we don't know what's waiting for us, and we can't predict anything about the future. And that's exactly why the diseased branch must be cured, all to protect the Yozakura family." So I like that Koricho has sort of like quote unquote betrayed them, but he actually has a motivation behind it. He's doing this to protect them from whatever it is out there, like whether it's like another branch of Tampopo, whether it's Kai and Spy associations, whether it's like whether it's potentially another branch of the Yozakura family aside from the main family heads, like an off branch of the Yozakura family that has kind of been thrown under the rug and wants to like eliminate the structure of just like we have one head who's the head of the family, and everyone else has superpowers, and we get oh oh I've just realised something. I I've just realised something. Okay, so Kai might be a relative of Rin's brother and sister, but he might just be an adopted. He might just be adopted because he lost his family in the same way to Tile. So he might have been adopted by Rin's brother. So he might be like the adoptive cousin of the Yozakura family because from I from what I can gather, it seems like it's from the way the family is set up and everything. Now, this is just me. I could be completely wrong here, but it seems like it's only the heads of the Yozakura that can actually have children. Have you ever noticed that? Like, let let me go back. Let me go back to chapter 2 when Koricho explains the whole head of the Yozakura family. So let me look at what Koricho actually says, and I'll get back to you guys. Okay, so this is what Koricho explains about the whole family structure of the Yozakura families. He said this is in chapter 2. It's on page 7, so you guys can go and read this as well. He says the Yozakura clan traces its roots to the ninja of the Edo clan. We produce generations of people with superhero abilities. So yeah, there has to be aunts and uncles out there. Like, he pretty much confirms it in chapter 2 that yeah, there are aunts and uncles out there. But in every generation there is one person who is born ordinary. That person is the head of the house. Is the head of the household. This leader may not have superhuman talents like the other members, but their offspring will undoubtedly inherit incredible abilities. Therefore, only one person can pass on the genes with the Yozakura talent. So this might not be the case, but it would make a whole lot of sense if this is what happening. Like, okay, Kai's the adopted cousin of Rin's brother of one of Rin's brothers or sisters. Like, so he's the adopted son and therefore the adopted cousin of the Yozakura. What if, based on what Koricho said in chapter 2, that it's only Mutsumi that can produce kids and the other heads of the Yozakura family that can produce kids, but everyone else, like, so like Mutsumi is the only one that can produce kids, but like say Futaba, Shinzo, Shion, Koricho, Nanano, and Kengo, they all cannot have kids. Because it says that only that one person can pass their genes through the generations. So it leads me to believe that them lot can never have kids. And if that's the case, maybe it's the previous heads, aunts and uncles, and Kai has kind of like rallied them together to be like, we need to eliminate the Yozakura family line because they're a problem to us, and we need to eliminate their heads, including Mutsumi, because if we eliminate the heads, we might have the chance to have children of our own. So it might actually be a revenge against the Yozakura family line because maybe some of the aunts and uncles wanted to have kids themselves, and because of this whole idea of how the family line runs, they couldn't actually have them of their own, and they're kind of like getting really pissed off at the family, and they kind of want their revenge for that, for being born into this family, or maybe some of the Yozakura like aunts and uncles didn't want to have superhuman abilities, and they were kind of forced into it, and they just wanted to live a normal life themselves, but they kind of resent that they're in this situation, and Kai is kind of rallying them all together to kind of like, okay, we need to take them out as like revenge for what has happened, and especially revenge against the heads, and that includes Mutsumi. Because if that's the case, then Koricho would be really pissed at Kai at that point, because it's directly threatening not just his family but also his sister as well, who we know Koricho is very protective of Musume. But yeah, I could see that actually being the case. The fact that no one aside from the heads in the Yozakura family can have kids, and they might actually be like, hey, we want kids and you've basically taken it away from us, so they're kind of like having a revenge match. And that would make so much sense now that I think about it. But hey, I'm probably just talking out of my mouth here now. But let me know what you think. Like, is that going to be the case? Like, Kai is the adoptive cousin of the Yozakura family, so he was adopted into by one of the Yozakura, by one of Ri's siblings, who was kind of resentment of them not having kids, and maybe he, like I said, got the artificial blooming through the air because of Tsubumi, and he was like, okay, I have the blooming now, even though I'm not directly related to Mutsumi, I still have the blooming now, so maybe I can use this to my advantage, or maybe that would actually work. I could definitely see that, and I honestly want to know, because I know Polydrams is going to watch this. What do you think? What do you think, man? And we might talk about this next week if we remember it. The fact that the aunts and uncles might not have been able to have kids, and they might have actually resented that. That's the theory I'm going off here, of like what the actual threat actually is. It's more Yozakura families, but it's the branch, and they're kind of resenting of the fact that they don't have kids of their own, and yet the heads do get to have that experience of motherhood or fatherhood. That would make so much sense now that I think about it. Okay, yeah, I've just looked at the picture here on chapter 2. If you look at the family tree, yeah, it's only one line. It's only one line for Mutsumi. So yeah, it's pretty much confirmed on that picture, if you go back and look on chapter 7, that it's only the heads that can have the kids. So yeah, that would make so much sense now. I want to know what you think, Party Jam, so let me know, man. Let me know. But now that makes so much sense, that if Kai is the adopted cousin of Mutsumi and everyone, and how he came to know about these things, because he's being raised by one of the uncles who kind of resents what has happened, and or one of the aunts who kind of like wanted kids of their own. So that would be an interesting take way to take it. But anyway, going back into the chapter proper, to wrap it up, we have Tayu going to attack Koricho as he turns his ability in, as he blasts his ability out all around him and turns it into a circular buzzsaw to kind of cut through the blades. And this is where Tayo realizes, like, these threads are so feasible. I never think they were Koricho's. To think his threads have gone this weaker, which makes sense because he is being poisoned. And this is where we get Tayo's declaration of, but he's still trying to protect us. He's thinking so far ahead, I can't even comprehend it. That's exactly why I have no intention of yielding. After all, on that day, I swore an oath that this time I will protect my precious family. And he manages to once again get in a hug with Koricho, and that's where the chapter ends. So the only disappointment about the chapter is pretty much ends in the same way that it did last chapter. But everything else was so good, and it just leads to so many theories that that I didn't even think about when we were doing the live stream. But now that I thought about it, it makes so much sense. If that is the case, like Kai is the adopted cousin, that would make so much sense, and I really hope that that's the angle they're going to go down, because that pretty much would have been foreshadowed, like I said, in chapter 2, of like why this motivation would be happening. But yeah, also as well, I like the ending, because now it's pretty much saying like, yeah, Tayu's family, his original family, may be dead, and maybe again the aunts and uncles saw Tayu and Mutsumi's budding relationship when they were younger, and maybe they thought like, yeah, we've got to get rid of this Tayu kid, because if he comes into the family, because he's getting too close to Mutsumi, there's going to be a few little problems. So it's obvious that his family's death was planned, and maybe it was planned by the Yozakura family itself to prevent him and Mutsumi actually getting together in the first place. That wouldn't surprise me. But yeah, now he's actually part of the Yozakura family. He thinks of them as family, and that includes Koricho. And like I said, even though they fought and everything, he still views him as a big brother and someone and something of a mentor figure that's pretty much helped him grow as a spy and develop not just his relationship with Mutsumi, but his relationship with the other families and his abilities as a spy as well. Like, look at Taiyo at the beginning of the series and look at him now. He's completely different people, and partially that is due to Koricho's sort of mental training, but also like reverse psychology training as well. Koricho is quite the interesting mentor figure that we've had in Shonen Jump, in the sense that he's not going to take it lightly on Taiyo, but at the same time he's going to be subtly being like, yeah, I'm still protecting you, but at the same time I'm going to try and make it as difficult for you as possible. But yeah, that's pretty much everything I had to say on the chapter. So what did you guys think of the chapter? Let me know. Like, subscribe, comment, all that jazz. And this will be Lasherluke signing off. Later, guys.